Alliance ends here, hatchling.
We will win this together.
Disintegration. Cleansing. Incineration. Surprises.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about the build I've been playing in PO1 this league, which is the Rambo Wizard II. Obviously I call it that, but it's not really Rambo Wizard. It's not really firing the projectiles by itself. We're using totems this time. So it's more of a Rambo engineer, I'd say. But anyways, I think everyone knows by now that Kinetic Fusillade is a busted skill this league. Everyone and their mom is playing it. It has great clear. It also has insane single target DPS if you scale projectile count. So we're actually using this to our advantage. The main problem with Kinetic Fusillade is that we have to scale reduced duration and also control our attack speed. Because if we attack before the hover duration ends, we will refresh the duration and we're losing damage. So most of the time there's attack speed cap, depending on how much reduced scale effect duration you have. But we can actually increase the amount of attack speed that we can scale by using Ballista Totems. Because if you look at this, the Ballista Totem support has 50% less attack speed. This is normally a pretty bad downside, but this is actually a good thing for us because with the amount of totems we can put down, this is a net DPS increase. Plus, with the less attack speed modifier, we can scale our attack speed further and not be bottlenecked by our reduced duration. So we're getting a total of 95 reduced scale effect duration in this build. You can see with warp timepiece here, which is 20%. We have 2 time claps, which is also 20%. Pair that with, on our passive tree, we have 25% here, as well as 10% here. We have a total of 95% reduced skill effect duration. So that is already enough for our totem to fire off with an insane amount of attack speed increase without refreshing the duration of the fusillade. Now, how do we get a lot of increased attack speed? Since we're already scaling a lot of reduced skill effect duration, what we could use is Coiling Whisper. This is introduced last league, which gives us Soul Eater if our hexes have expired. If we pair that with Wilma's requital, which converts our increase and reduction to cast speed into attack speed, this with Soul Eater and Wilma's requital gives us a total of 450% increased attack speed, which is just absurd. And since we are already scaling reduced skill effect duration, we basically have no additional investment other than giving up one of our belt slot, because in order to use an additional ring, we would have to go with the Nameless King Bloodline Ascendancy, which gives us additional ring slot at the cost of our belt. We choose belt here just because this Coiling Whisper is going to give us way more than what a belt can ever do, plus flask upgrade, so we're not giving up that. We need to use the warp timepiece, so we can't give up an amulet, so that is what we ended up. So this alone already gives us insane attack speed. You could also use Onslaught Flask to give us even further attack speed, because Onslaught is also increased attack speed and cast speed. So that's another, I think, 40% more. Oh, 40% additional attack speed. So with our attack speed problem out of the way, we have to scale our damage somehow, right? So what I'm doing here that I don't think I've seen many people talk about is using Elegant Hubris. So this league, wand attack is the big thing, right? Since GGG really wants us to play wand attacks, we got a lot of new wand attack skills. Most of the wand attack skills have this line, which is increase and reduction to spell damage, also apply to attack damage at a percentage of their value. So for example, Kinetic Fusillade has 150% of this value. which means that we could scale spell damage and attack damage or projectile attack damage to increase our Kinetic Fusillade damage. We're doing that with this Elegant Hubris right here. So I found that this Elegant Hubris is insane in this location, just right beside Templar. Because if you look for Elegant Hubris with the convention 59540, which you could get easily by looking at the market. If you search by count 1, so just one of these would suffice, because we don't really care about what the keystone is. You could get any of these. So just do count 4 of these. We don't care about this. 59540 and search. You can actually see that there are actually people selling the exact same number. So you can just grab any one of these. Hopefully they're not raised in price after I post the video. But the reason why this Elegant Hubris is insane is because if you look at this area, this Elegant Hubris alone gives us 80% increased spell damage here, 80% increased projectile attack damage, 80% projectile attack, 80% spell, 80% spell, and 80% spell. So in total, you have to remember, spell damage is increasing our damage by 150%. So these nodes here are actually giving us 120% increased damage. So with 1, 2, 3, 4 spell damage and 2 projectile attack damage, this Elegant Hubris alone in this area is going to give us a total of 640% increased damage. We also get the benefit of grabbing some good mastery because without sacrificing by taking bad nodes like mana nodes. So we could get mana reservation efficiency here. We could get recover energy shield from taking physical damage. We could also take the hits treat enemy resistance as inverted. Since we're using Coiling Whisper, we can't really use curses to reduce enemy resistances. So this is a very, very high net DPS gain. Yeah, so the rest of the tree is fairly simple. We have totem nodes here and here for quality of life. We're taking Wand Mastery just because there's here that gives 1 fire and additional projectile, which is really good, and it also gives accuracy, which we need. We're grabbing all the aura nodes here, and obviously the reduced duration. And also, if we want to use marks, we would have to actually grab Whispers of Doom, which grants additional curse. Since one of the curse we're going to use for Coiling Whisper, in order to use a mark skill, we have to have additional curse. So that is basically the tree. We have to grab Elemental Overload because it's a very easy 40% more elemental damage. We're also grabbing Elemental Equilibrium because we're doing all 3 types of damage. So if you look at our Kinetic Fusillade, we have all 3 of Fire, Cold, and Lightning. So this, it will be a net damage gain no matter which element triggers the Elemental Equilibrium. Also, even if it triggers, if the trigger element doesn't benefit from the elemental exposure, there is a chance that it will trigger the inverted elemental resistance anyway, so it will be a huge damage boost. So we are also scaling our damage from additional projectiles. So Kinetic Fusillade works very similar to Barrage in a sense where increased projectile count would just also increase our single target damage. And we're doing that by what we already mentioned, which is the Wand Mastery that gives additional additional projectile with our wand attacks. We are also grabbing additional projectile here from Multi-Shot. And we can actually use Rain of Splinters here, which makes it so that our totems fire 2 additional projectiles. Plus, we are an Ascendant, so we can grab Deadeye, which not only gives us effect of marks and tailwind, but also we fire additional projectile here. So in total, we're actually firing off 6 projectiles with Kinetic Fusillade. And if you're bossing, you could also drink the Dying Sun Flask. Now with increased effect, this Dying Sun Flask gives us 3 additional projectiles. So during bossing, we have 9 projectiles per totem attack, per totem. So we can actually put down a total of 8 totems in this case. And that is because I also have, you might have noticed, I have an anointed Wilma's requital and a double anointed warp timepiece. Now, this is not mandatory at all. You don't need to get this. The way you get this is you have to find the base Blight unique item with Solar Circlet, anoint it, break it with a Val Orb, and Mythic Orbit. That is going to, with a very low chance of transforming into a Wilma's requital. So this is kind of a chase item. This is in no way mandatory. You don't need it. You don't need a double anointed warp timepiece. Just get anointment of multi-shot and be done with it. You don't have to worry about these. These are chase items. You can get it if you have the currencies, but it's absolutely not mandatory. Just anoint multi-shot on your amulet, and that's enough. And I've been working without these enchantment for the longest time, only with multi-shot. And even with only 6 totems instead of 8, I was reaching, I believe, 90 million DPS. So you don't need these additional totems, because Watchtower and Surveillance only gives 1 totem each. You don't need them, 6 is enough. With those, obviously you get to 8, but you don't need them. But yeah. So that is basically our tree. We're putting out totems to fire off a shit ton of projectiles, and that's the gist of the build. So in terms of gear, the only mandatory part is a Wilma's requital, Coiling Whisper, 2 20% time claps, and a 20% warp timepiece. That's all the mandatory items you need. The remaining are just great damage boost. You don't need a Rain of Splinters. It's obviously a huge damage boost. You don't need it. This is a really good damage boost. In fact, we are scaling most of our increased damage here. So I recommend getting this first. But also, if you can't afford it, you could just grab increased damage elsewhere. Although it might not be as strong. And the rest of the gear is just a good elemental damage wand. A shield that has +1 totem. Now this shield is very easy to make. What you need is you have to just grab any shield that you like with good resistances or defenses, whatever you want, with an open prefix. You have to fill all the suffix first, like what I did here where I just crafted attributes. But if you have an open prefix and you slam Shaper's Exalt, you are guaranteed to get +1 totem. So this is a very cheap and very easy to make shield. The rest of the gear is just getting resistances and attributes for build and gems. And yeah. Now for skills, our main skill is obviously Kinetic Fusillade. We're using Kinetic Fusillade paired with Ballista Totems, so we're plopping it down totems to attack for us. We have Elemental Penetration. Since we don't have curses, penetrating enemy resistances are really good. Or we're using damage on full life because we're going CI. We're always on full life, so this is just a free damage boost. We're using Awaken Added Cold, and we're using Awaken Elemental Focus. Now for auras, we're using Anger and Wrath as our damage aura. And we're using Discipline just to give us a little bit of more energy shield for defenses, and Enlightens just to make it so we can reserve a little bit more auras. We're also using Precision because this gives us accuracy, which we desperately need. And we're using Clarity 1. Now the reason I'm using Clarity 1 is just because we have a Watcher's Eye here that has minus mana cost to skills while affected by Clarity. You don't need this. If you don't have this, no worries, just don't use Clarity and be done with it. And yeah, in terms of our secondary attack, we're just using Frenzy. Now we're casting Frenzy by our own. We have such a high attack speed. It's very easy to use. But we're only using Frenzy to gain Frenzy charges. So you don't have to level it up. Just keep it at level 1. Keep it at absolutely no mana cost. Or 2 mana cost. And yeah, this is just to get Frenzy charges. We're also applying our curses using Hex Touch and Temporal Chains here. All level 1 because we want it to be as short as possible. So we're just hitting the boss once, hitting the boss once, hitting the boss once to get 3 Frenzy charges and max Soul Eater stack, and you don't have to do that anymore. We're also using Calling Strike just because why not? It's a free 10% more damage. Yeah. Now, for movement, Lightning Warp is disgusting in this build because we're scaling so much cast speed with Soul Eater. We're also getting a lot of attack and cast speed here with our Hind Claps. And we're having 100% reduced duration with a Lightning Warp because Lightning Warp innately has reduced duration. So we actually have a 0 cooldown, 0 duration, instant teleport with Lightning Warp. You can use it as much as you want. Leaving it at level 1 makes it so it costs no mana, so we could just zoom in whatever area you're in. And we're also just using Inspiration just to lower the mana cost to 0. And last but not least, remember we're having Whispers of Doom, so we also have Sniper's Mark here. Now, I'm using Mark on hit so that our Frenzy applies this Sniper's Mark. This actually lowers our damage just because Mark on hit has a penalty, but I'm too lazy to cast a Mark by myself, so I just used Mark on hit. I did some POB with enhanced support. We aren't really losing a lot of damage anyways with Mark on hit, so I would recommend just using Mark on hit with Sniper's Mark to make things a lot simpler. So you can just put down your totems, attack enemies with Frenzy, and warp around with Lightning Warp. You don't have to worry about anything else. So yeah, that's basically the entire build. For bossing, you just drink Dying Sun with a Sulfur Flask and Onslaught Flask. And I think right now our character stands at around 146 million DPS, which is way more than you will need for any boss, even Uber bosses. So I would recommend if you're doing this build, you can actually give up some of the damage or auras in favor of more defenses. You could give up 1 or 2 damage auras, put in Determination or whatever you like. You could scale some block on a tree if you want, just for defenses. But this build, this character, I'm obviously opting for a Glass Cannon build. I would say it's actually suboptimal. Going a well-rounded defense character will be much stronger since with the totems you already have enough damage for days. So yeah, that's basically the build. Thank you.
Must
I have
turn
nothing more to
good
give.
for a talker. I'm supposed to offer to be cruel choice. In this vast, callous machine, one cog is indistinguishable.
You may despise the machine.
To the Inquisition, I assume? If you wish to change minds, Exile, the ranks of the faithful swell.
Deadly and swift, like a wild and beautiful animal.
Why is this bloody invader still alive?
The cycle of life and death is supposed to be general. Not death is a natural.
Death is what... If it's information you're after, my retribution will be... Even an ignoramus like yourself. So be it. But if word of our deal makes it to other...
I've killed countless thousands. What?
I have nothing more to give.
By my
Tight tethers.
force of arms! Your strength is the law.